All right, so my goal over the next couple of episodes is to talk about discussions or debate about various doctrinal positions and why that's a good thing and how we ought to go about them. I really would like to do short videos that are easily consumable, keep them around the 15 to 20 minute range, maybe a little bit longer depending on the content. So that's my goal. And over the next several weeks, I'm going to try and put out a couple of these a week. Things have been a little bit hectic at home, so it's taken me a while to put this one together. Like I said, I'm talking about debate or discussion on doctrinal positions and how we apply them. So today I want to talk about truth and why seeking the truth is crucial, why it's foundational to the entire process. And yes, there can be secondary and tertiary motivations and things like that, but ultimately we should be about the business of seeking truth and accurately applying that truth to our lives. So as we go about doing discussions with dissenting opinions, it's not about being right or proving that you are right, although that could happen. When you go into one of these discussions, it should be about finding truth. And you obviously go into the discussion believing that you are correct, believing that you are right, but we need to have the humility to recognize we're not omniscient. You know, we don't know everything. So there is a possibility that there is data that we didn't know about, and also there could be an issue with the way we synthesize or process that data, which is really why a lot of these discussions are very important, because it's helping us fine-tune not only our understanding of the doctrine, not only our articulation of it, but our understanding in opposition views, right? And that's important, because when we go into these discussions believing that we're right, wanting to be persuasive, wanting to bring them to our side of the argument, win people over to the truth, right? A couple of things are going to happen when we're humble enough to listen, to really evaluate what the distractor is saying, and evaluate how that affects the doctrine and our application of it. A couple of things happen. right? When we go about it with that kind of humility and that sense of purpose in finding the truth, is we could be wrong. They might bring up something that we have never heard of, never thought of. They might point out false data that we have, bad way of processing that data, a way of synthesizing that we had not heard of. And that in the long term helps us reevaluate what the truth is, and it brings us closer to that truth. So we could be wrong. And the upside of that is we are less wrong after the discussion, right? If we're willing to seek the truth and error is pointed out, we're able to repent, and not necessarily from sin, but we're able to change our mind and align ourselves more closely with what is objectively true and how we ought to apply that. That's one outcome. Another possibility is that they bring up data or an argument or a way of arguing, a series of arguments that we hadn't heard of. And it gives us an opportunity to learn how to deal with those arguments, right? See how valid they are. See how sound they are. It gives us an opportunity to learn more about how to attack some new argument. And that's beneficial. It helps us really understand all of the objections, all of the questions, or at least getting to the all stage, understanding what the objections and questions are. And it helps us to fine-tune our responses. It helps us to better be able to articulate a decent answer to the question or to the objection. We can see where they have an issue, and it gives us an opportunity to better clarify for that person or anyone that has a similar objection or question. So the process itself is designed to help us understand our own position, how to defend our position, and how to answer objections and questions, which again aligns us closer and closer to truth and our ability to defend it. Another thing that could happen is we could be persuasive and win them over. It really helps us if we're about seeking truth to understand what the real objections are, what the real questions are, and not have us superimpose it upon them, but really hear them out. So it helps in our communication skills having these types of discussions if we're going towards honesty with a humility that we need to, or a willingness to change where we're shown to be wrong, or where there's a better argument or a better way of synthesizing the data. And we can do all of this civilly. We can do this as friends. We could do this as enemies, recognizing the other person is an image of God, treating them with respect, pointing out their errors so that we can persuade them or other people listening and watching. So as we are engaged in these kinds of discussions, it's not about us. It's not even only about the person we're discussing with, but there's a whole range of people that are watching on both sides. And it helps everybody have a better understanding of the issues and how to negotiate through those issues. It helps us another way in language on how to communicate. So for example, after I wrote my book and was able to talk to several pro-life organization leaders and pro-life people, while I still agree with the doctrines that I've said, I might, I'm pretty sure I would, phrase some of the ideas differently. I might put in additional argumentation because I'm able to see where generally people are taking issues and what kind of questions and how I can better articulate the doctrinal position, right? And I have a better understanding of what their arguments really are. Throughout these discussions, we also need to listen. Not only might they say something to us that we've never heard, an argument that we haven't heard, bring up data that we haven't heard, point out an error that we hadn't recognized yet, they might produce an argument that we haven't thought through. And this is a good way to grow together. And this just happened to me like 2 weeks ago, talking to somebody about various abortion healthcare laws and their concerns, and they brought up a point that I'd never heard before, and it gave me a chance to work through the implications of what it was that they were saying. I think it is a good thing. I think it helps strengthen our position. Because at the end of these discussions, if you're going in it with honesty, integrity, seeking the truth, and the humility to be able to adapt and change when error is pointed out, you just strengthen your confidence in the position that you hold. And you strengthen your ability to articulate that position, articulate the arguments for it, adapt those arguments for the person that you are talking to, because you're going to relate to different people differently, and they're going to have different versions of the same objections and questions, and being able to show them the answers that they're seeking, or to clarify the objections that they have, is going to be beneficial. I'm all for crushing and destroying arguments. And that's a good thing. But that is not the only reason why we get into these discussions and debates. It's not to just annihilate the other person. It really is to guide them and others to the truth of doctrine, knowing that we are on the same pilgrimage, right? That we're also seeking the truth and wanting to image God properly. So I hope this has been helpful. I'm going to record a couple of more of these. I want to deal with things like knee-jerk reactions and things like that, because I think that's important. the more that we go through these types of discussions and arguments, the faster that we will be able to pick up on the cues of what's being said to us, and less likelihood of us jumping to conclusions. So that's probably the next one I'm going to talk about. I want to deal with honesty in our argumentation. I'm going to spend a little bit of time on that. I want to talk about forming our arguments in a winsome manner, in a way that will be receptive. Whether they agree or not is a totally different thing, but one where we can have actual conversations. I want to talk about various ways that we have been misleading, either intentionally or unintentionally, and how we can stop doing that. I want to spend another video talking about the various levels on which we can have these types of conversations, from a very low resolution, general, just speaking, and then a different type of conversation where we're dealing more with particulars and a higher resolution. Being able to talk to somebody using technical language versus just talking to like a 5-year-old kid. So these are some of the videos that I will be having coming up very soon. So thank you very much. Make sure to like and share this. And if you have any other ideas or questions that would be helpful for dealing with civil doctrinal discussions and debate, questions that you would like answered, please hit me up in comments or message me. Okay, y'all have a good day.